Hi friends! Today we are going to make a Chevron scrapbook template that is super fun, colorful, and totally versatile. I will show you step by step how to build it in Photoshop so you can reuse it on your layouts. I like to add colors to my templates instead of sticking with that boring gray. It sparks creativity, breaks you out of a scrap rut, and helps you get more done. Let's dive in and get creative. Before we start making the chevron template, let's take a minute to set up our workspace. We can start by creating a new 12 by 12 inch document at 300 pixels per inch with a colored background. For this tutorial, I am choosing a soft gray as my background color. I will click OK and then click Create. Press Ctrl J, Mac Command J to duplicate the background paper. Next, go up to the menu bar and choose View and turn on Rulers. Now, click and drag a guide down from the top ruler to place your first guide wherever you'd like. I will put it right here for now. And then drag another guide from the top ruler and position it about 1 inch below the first guide. This will help define the proportion of the zigzag shape you are going to create. Now that our workspace is ready, let's start building the zigzag line. This part is really fun. We'll turn a simple rectangle into a playful zigzag design using one quick filter in Photoshop. In a toolbar, select the rectangle marquee tool. In a tool options, click on the new selection icon. Set the feather to 0 pixel and the style to normal. Next, set your foreground color to any color you like. I'm going with a rich reddish pinkish color, and the hex code number is C82A7C. And then I'll just click OK. In the Layers panel, click the Create a New Layer icon, and I will rename this Reddish Chevron. On your document, click and drag to draw a rectangle inside the guides, and then just release. Press Alt Backspace, Mac Option Delete to fill the shape with your foreground color. And then just press Ctrl D, Mac Command D to deselect the outline. If you'd like, you can remove the guides now by going to View, Guides, Clear Guides in the menu bar. But if you prefer, just move them up a little. But first, you have to press Ctrl Mac Command key so you'll be able to remove the guide up a little bit. Okay, next, go up to the menu bar and choose Filter, Distort, Wave. In the Wave dialog box, enter the following settings. Here, for the number of generators, I will put 240, and then here, I'm choosing triangle for the type because it gives those nice crisp corners that make the zigzag really pop. And for the wavelength, I will put 725 for the minimum and 726 for the maximum. For amplitude, put 1 for the minimum and 40 for maximum. And here for the scale, I put 12% for the horizontal and 12% for vertical. And for undefined areas, I'm selecting wrap around so the pattern connects seamlessly from one side to the other without leaving any gaps. When you are done, click OK to apply the effect. Would you look at that? We've just created a chevron, but we're not done yet. We still need to duplicate and arrange it so our template layout looks more complete and dressed up. Let's take our chevron a step further. Press Ctrl T, Mac Command T to get the transform options. Here, I'd like to resize the chevron's shape a bit, but this is optional. It is perfectly fine to leave it as is. Make sure that you hold the Shift key while resizing to maintain the proportion. Click the check mark to commit the change. Next, press Ctrl J, Mac Command J to duplicate the chevron shape. Click and drag the copy to its new position. Get the rectangle marquee tool. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And then select the portion of the chevron shape you want to cut. Press Ctrl X, Mac Command X to cut in half. I'm cutting the chevron here so I can add it to the first chevron we made and slightly change the look of the shape, giving our template a bit more variation and interest. Okay, now use the marquee tool again to create a selection outline where you want the cut portion to appear. And once the outline is ready, press Ctrl V, Mac Command V to paste the cut chevron shape onto the document. Now let's line up our chevron pieces. We are going to use guides again to make it easier to align everything neatly. Get the Move tool or press letter V to get the Move tool. Put the guides back so they line up with the first chevron layer we made earlier. This helps you line all the chevron pieces together accurately. All right, so I'm going to move this first chevron we made a little bit to the middle right here. Okay, and then I'm going to bring the other guides right here. Okay, and put it in the bottom right there. Okay, and now click and drag one portion of the chevron shape copy and carefully arrange it next to the first chevron. So I will put it right here. All right, now if you like, you can reduce the opacity of this layer slightly. That makes it easier to line up the shape precisely. And then just slide the opacity bar right here. I think we're doing pretty good job right there. So, okay, I'll just put the opacity back. And then I will just put the other one right here. All right. Take your time here. Aligning each piece carefully makes your template look clean and professional. Try zooming in by pressing Ctrl plus, Mac Command plus so you can see better. Once all the pieces are in position, don't forget to bring the opacity back up in the Layers panel. Next, in the Layers panel, click on the first layer, then hold down the Shift key and click on the reddish chevron layer to select all three layers together. Press Ctrl E, Mac Command E to merge the three layers together into one. I am merging them here so it will be easier to clip a pattern paper later, instead of clipping it to three separate shapes, which can be a bit tedious. In the Layers panel, double-click on Layer 2 to rename it. You can name it whatever you like. I'm going to rename mine Reddish Chevron. Now that our chevron shape is all merged and organized, let's move on and add a little extra interest to the background paper. We are going to cut an area of layer 1 in the shape of the chevron. Before deleting, take a quick moment to double check the chevron's position. Make sure it is exactly where you want the cut to land in layer 1. I am nudging my chevron down just a bit first, so the cut will land perfectly in a place where I want. Once you are happy with the placement, go to the Layers panel. Hold Ctrl, Mac Command key, and click the thumbnail of the reddish chevron layer to load its selection. And then click Layer 1 and press Backspace, Mac Delete key to remove that area. Press Ctrl D, Mac Command D to get rid of the selection outline. Now, in the toolbar, grab the lasso tool. In the tool options, click on the new selection icon. Set the feather to 0 pixel and make sure anti-alias is checked. In the Layers panel, click the visibility icons to turn off both the reddish chevron layer and the background layer for now. This will make it easier to see what we are doing. On the document, create a selection around the lower area of the background copy layer. If you need to add more to the selection, hold down Shift key and drag to include more areas. If you need to remove part of the selection, hold Alt Mac Option key and drag over the area you want to subtract. Once you are happy with the selection, press Ctrl X, Mac Command X to cut the lower section of the background copy layer. And then press Ctrl V, Mac Command V to paste it back onto the document. Switch to the Move tool and reposition the new layer back into its original spot. Hold down Shift while dragging to keep it perfectly aligned. Cutting and pasting this section helps create a subtle layered effect. It's a simple way to give your background more texture and visual interest. Now, let's give our design a little more depth. We're going to add drop shadows to the top section of the background copy layer. In the Layers panel, click on the top section layer. While we are here, let's rename the layers to keep things nice and organized. I'm calling the top one top background and the lower one bottom half. Now I just need to rearrange these two layers a bit, making sure the top background sits on top of the bottom half layer. Next, with the top background layer selected, click the FX icon at the bottom of the Layers panel and choose Drop Shadow from the menu. With the Drop Shadow dialog open, we are going to tweak a few settings to give the top background layer some subtle depth. I will set the blend mode to multiply, set the opacity to like around 30 or 40%, and for the angle, I will set it to 120 degrees and check Use Global Light. For the distance, I will set it to 7 pixels. For the spread, I'll set it to 2% and I'll set the size to 13 pixels, but feel free to do it like between 10 or 15 pixels, and that will give a subtle blur to make it look natural. And then just click OK. We don't need to add a shadow to the bottom half layer since we'll be covering part of it with more chevron lines later. In the Layers panel, click on the reddish chevron layer and make sure its visibility icon is turned on. And then just drag the layer below the top background layer. We'll be adding more chevron lines to create a fun, dynamic template for our layout. With the reddish chevron layer and the bottom half layer probably positioned below the top background layer, your canvas is ready. This setup makes it easier to add, move, and align additional chevron pieces without disturbing the layers you've already worked on. Next, let's add some stroke lines to our chevron to make it pop. Click on the reddish chevron layer to activate it. Then press Ctrl J, Mac Command J twice to create two copies. I'm going to use these two copies as stroke lines for the reddish chevron layer. Go ahead and rename the two new layers Stroke Line 1 and Stroke Line 2. For the stroke color, I'm going to use white. So I'm going to press D to reset the foreground and background color. Now press Ctrl Shift Backspace, Mac Command Shift Delete to fill the layer with the background color. Repeat the same for the other stroke line layer. For the next step, let's make sure our stroke lines are perfectly aligned. Feel free to temporarily hide bottom half layer and top background layer by clicking their visibility icons. This makes it easier to see and align the stroke lines. Let's click on the stroke line 2 and hide the stroke line 1 for now by clicking its visibility icon. Go to the menu bar and choose Layer, Create Clipping Mask. This clip the stroke layer to the reddish chevron shape. Now, use the Move tool to reposition stroke line 2. Hold Shift while dragging to keep it perfectly aligned, or use the arrow keys for the fine adjustment. Once stroke line 2 is in position, unhide stroke line 1 and activate it. Just like before, go to Layer, Create Clipping Mask to clip it to the reddish chevron shape. Next, reposition stroke line 1 to its new spot on the lower section of the chevron. I'm dragging mine down and eyeballing the alignment so it lines up perfectly with the first stroke line. Finally, turn the visibility back on for the bottom half layer and the top background layer. Here I'm going to adjust stroke line 2 slightly by nudging it down with the arrow keys. This helps create a nice balance between both stroke lines and keeps everything aligned perfectly. Before we move on, let's adjust a small setting for easier layer management. In the tool options, uncheck auto select. This ensures that only the active layer moves when you drag it, which makes arranging your groups much easier. And here's a little tip. If you want to move or nudge the whole group, select this box and click on the group. If you want to move just one layer inside the group, click and hold the box for a second, and from the pop-up menu, choose Layer. And this lets you move a single layer without moving the entire group. But for now, I will check on this group. Now, we are going to create 4 more copies of the Chevron group, one at a time. Activate the group layer you want to copy. And here in the Layers panel, I have already activated the reddish chevron layer. And then hold Alt Mac Option key and click and drag the group layer under the reddish chevron layer. This creates a new group layer below the original. Rename the new group layer. For example, I will call mine Blue Chevron, but you can pick any color name you like. On the document, with the Move tool, click and drag this group downward and then hold the Shift key to keep it aligned. Position it wherever you like. I will place mine right here. Next, in the Layers panel, click the arrow next to the folder that we just made to open the group. Locate the reddish chevron layer inside the group. And here, I will rename mine Blue Chevron. In the toolbar, click the foreground background color icon to open the color picker. Choose any color you like. I will use blue for this one, and then just click OK. Press Alt Shift Backspace Mac Option Shift Delete to fill the layer with the new foreground color. And finally, just close the group layer and click the arrow next to the folder again. Copying and recoloring groups like this is a quick way to build your template with multiple chevron lines, keeping everything organized and easy to adjust later. Repeat the same process to create the third and fourth chevron group layers. Here is what mine looks like after adding the third and fourth groups. I have colored and named this one orange and yellow chevron. Here is a little tip. If you want to create a more visually pleasing and coordinated color scheme, try browsing Pinterest and searching for Pantone color palettes. It's a great way to find color combinations that work beautifully together and make your template look more cohesive. And also a little tip here, if you'd like to adjust the placement of your chevron rows for better balance, here's how. In the Layers panel, click on the top background layer and then shift-click on the orange chevron group to select all those layers together. Now you can nudge them upward using your arrow keys or hold Shift while dragging to reposition them anywhere you like within the layout. Also, feel free to add more chevron group layers if you like, or place some closer together like this one over here to create a more dynamic and versatile template layout. If you want to stay organized, you can also color code your group layers in a Layers panel. To do that, right-click the visibility icon box next to a group's layers name. For example, I will right-click on the yellow chevron group layer. So I will click on this yellow chevron layer and then hover your cursor over the visibility icon first, and then right-click and choose the color that matches the layer. In this case, I will click yellow to apply it. Color coding your layers like this keeps everything tidy and makes it easier to find what you need later on. Now, let's do a little cleanup to make our template layout look crisp and professional. Click on the top background layer and then shift-click the bottom half layer. This will select all the layers in between, and don't worry, the background layer stays untouched. Press Ctrl A, Mac Command A to select the entire canvas. In the menu bar, go to Image, Crop. This trims away any extra space outside of your canvas, giving your template a neat centered look. And then just press Ctrl D, Mac Command D to deselect. Also, cropping now keeps your canvas neat and makes it much easier to clip pattern papers or add photos later. Alright, now that our Chevron template is organized and tidy, let's add a photo frame. Select the rectangle marquee tool from the toolbar. In the Layers panel, click on the top background layer so the new frame will appear above it. And then click the Create a New Layer icon. Next, click the foreground color icon in the toolbar to open the color picker. Choose any color you like, and I will use this color right here, and then just click OK. On the document, click and drag a rectangle to draw your photo frame. A little tip: while dragging, press and hold the space bar to adjust and reposition the box until it is in a perfect spot. Release the mouse when you are happy with the size and position. Finally, press Alt Backspace, Mac Option Delete to fill the selection with the foreground color. And then press Ctrl D, Mac Command D to deselect. Now, you can also add a drop shadow and stroke to make your frame pop. So here in the Layers panel, I will click on this FX layer icon and just choose drop shadow. I will use all the same settings just like before. Next, to add a stroke, here in the dialog box, just click the check mark next to the stroke and then click on the stroke. I will set the size to 27 pixels and I'll set the position to inside, the blend mode to normal, and the opacity to 100%. And for the color, I will choose white, but feel free to use any color you like for the stroke line. And then just click OK to apply. As you can see, adding drop shadow and stroke to your photo frames gives your layout depth and helps your photo stand out from the background. A template wouldn't be complete without adding a title and a journaling box. Let's start with the title. Get the type tool. For the big title, I'm using Abadi Empty Condensed Extra Bold. Let's put 50 point for the size, and then I'm going to use black for the color, and then I will use left align text. Now click anywhere on your canvas and type your text. I will just type title here and then just click the check mark to commit the text. If you'd like to adjust the spacing between the lines, open the character panel. If you don't see it, go to the menu bar and choose Window, Character. In the character panel, adjust the leading value to get the spacing that looks best to you. To reposition the title, press and hold Ctrl Mac Command key while dragging to move it into place. To add a journaling box, first click on the photo frame layer in the Layers panel. Then in the tool options, choose the font you'd like to use. I'm using Gem Font 1 Regular. And then I will just keep the text color the same as the title. And here, click on the character panel again. And I'm going to set the size of the font to 12 point. And for the leading value, I'll set it to auto for even line spacing. On your canvas, decide where you'd like the journaling box to go. I will place mine right below the photo frame and click and drag to draw a rectangular text box. While dragging, you may want to press and hold the space bar once in a while, and this lets you adjust and reposition the box on the canvas before releasing it, so you can place it exactly where you want. And when you are happy with the size, release your mouse to create it, and then you can just start typing. Click the check mark to commit the type. To move the journaling box around, press and hold Control Mac Command key while dragging it to its new position. I like where I put right here, so I'm not going to do anything else. You can resize the box by clicking on the text itself, and then you can resize it however you like it. And finally, I added a little confetti to bring some extra interest to the template layout. And of course, a drop shadows too. I also changed the colors of the top background and bottom half layers to give it a fresh look. And then I saved it as a PSD file so I can reuse the template anytime and customize it however I like. So here it is, my finished layout using the template we made. I added some wood arts and clipped a photo to the frame. As you can see, I also clipped pattern papers to all the chevron lines. It really adds personality and texture. If you like, you can even add shadows to the stroke lines and clip papers to them as well. The possibilities are endless. You can also add more photo frames or elements if you want. A template is just a starting point. It's a great way to get past scrapper's block and spark your creativity. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you had fun creating this template with me and that it inspires you to make something beautiful and meaningful for your scrapbook. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, or hit that subscribe button so you don't miss my next tutorial. Thanks again for stopping by and keep on scrapping.